Hello YouTube, Joe here. Today I thought we would look at sharpening things on a belt sander. Now, if we're careful, we can vacuum everything up and everything around everywhere so that there's no way you could catch a fire. Even if you tried, it couldn't happen. You need to get everything away from where the sparks are going to happen. All right, because you are going to create some sparks when you put metal against an abrasive. Now, if you guys don't want to do that or don't feel comfortable, time out, stop the video, don't even go here. I have concrete all around me. I do have wood to my left side, but I have a fire extinguisher within 7 feet of where I'm talking to you, and I know it's good. And if that one doesn't work, I have 2 more I can get to within another 25 feet. 3 more actually. Anyway, be safe and let's give it a whirl. After you've cleaned up, get some safety glasses on. The first thing I'm going to show you is that you can take a 3, 4, 5-in-1, whatever you want to call them. Don't sharpen them like this like everybody else does. That does work, I'll give it to you. But I can show you a better way. If you find, with the sander off, if you find the angle that you need looking straight down the blade, get an idea what that is. Hold the thing level. Hold it exactly where you need to be. And you're going to keep a couple fingers. Obviously, that won't be here. You're going to keep a couple fingers touching close to, but not on, the tip. Your fingers are going to be there to monitor temperature. And you're going to do real careful drags. And you're going to give it little weights in between. The abrasive coming by is acting as a cooling system, believe it or not. There's air movement between there. As long as it's not touching, it can be cooling. If you feel that the steel is getting too warm for your fingers here, you're pushing too hard, or your stroke is too long. You're staying on the abrasive too long. You'll want to do short, really short touches to it. Okay? And the idea is to not move away real far so as to maintain this angle really well. Be careful. You got a belt moving here. You could get an actual cut. Be careful where your fingers are, people. But bottom line, this works so well, you can get a razor sharp finish doing this. And you don't even need to backstroke the thing, or rarely ever will you need to. There isn't even a burr on it. But it's all about the gentle touches, very gentle touches. And you're going to do just, if it's running, you would just do short little pulls. Okay? Now we got that one sharpened. We move on to something like this, and it's the same deal. Piece of spring steel. Find out. Now this one's nice because you know where your flat is. There's no question there. So now you only have to worry about this and this. So if you like, get yourself a piece of scrap wood. Get yourself some carpet tape. Put that onto the back of there, and now you can't deal with that angle anymore. Now all you have to deal with is this one. And that's not so bad. If you're standing from an angle looking at the sander straight across, your eyes are out of the way of the frit. You don't have anything coming at you for sparks. And you can eyeball straight down the edge of this blade and see exactly what angle that you're at. And if you maintain with the block and your eye going down the side, you can do the same thing I was talking about earlier. You're going to do little short strokes as it's running, obviously. But you're going to let it cool in between for a few seconds too. Now the only drawback to doing it this way is that you can't feel the blade now. So now you're going to have to rely on you doing it beforehand with a different one and seeing to yourself how that heat transfers into a blade. If it's a real thin blade, it's easy to ruin it. The heat can't soak back into the part. It can't move fast enough away from the tip. Be very careful when you grind things that are thin. They will heat up so quick that they will ruin themselves immediately. Be very careful. This kind of stuff, it is dangerous to have your fingers close. Be careful. Watch what you're doing. And you're going to just maintain that temperature where you can feel what's happening in between those small touches. Monitor at all times what's happening to your blade. See how you're doing. If you're grinding way hard on one end than the other, you're not putting equal pressure or not pushing in the centers, if you will, of the blade. I would rather do 2 than 1. I can monitor temperature better and I can actually do this better. I do these by hand. I don't use the block. I just do them by hand. I have no problem doing that at all. But if you do, put a block on there. It'll help you out. Next are these scrapers. Now, if you want to, you can take the screw out of this one and you can set yourself up with a little block to do the game where it's pretty accurate going across. For me, I don't have an issue with it either. You can set it flat, no problem. And now you're going to look, before it's on, you're going to stare down it to get an idea of what angle you need to be at. Once you know what that angle is, fix it with your hand so you know where you're at. Start up your sander, move your other hand to the back of the handle, and gently kiss it as you move forward just a little bit. Again, these are very thin, easy to ruin. Light touch, super light touch. If you see sparks flying like somebody using a cutoff torch, it's junk. It's no good anymore. You need to have the word finesse here, where it's very gentle. Seriously, you'll ruin it. So watch your angles really carefully with your eye. Really tightly watch those angles. And gently give it a little touch. See how you're doing. This one came out really, really nice, first shot. And I'm not going to do this stuff for you because of 2 reasons. I'm not having this fritting stuff going while my camera gear is out. And number 2, it's so noisy with the fan on. I can't even hardly talk over it. So I need to just show you how it's done, and you need to understand as I go along what I'm talking about to get the job done for yourself. Okay? Next, let's talk about what if you have some crummy chisels you don't care about. Okay? I have a couple sets of those. And my game is don't do this like everybody else does because it puts ditches, deep gouges in the chisel face. So as you try to cut with it, you have low spots that aren't sharp and high spots that are. If, however, you do this on its side also, it's amazing how sharp it can be. And I truly mean it. Literally just shave anything. It's really nice. Now, do you do that with the best chisels you have? Probably not. And I'll show you a better way to do those next. But here's one more tip. For a chisel, pick a block of wood that's thicker than the chisel is itself. And also pick a block of wood that won't let the handle touch down so that this thing will be floating without the handle hitting. Or if it hits, make sure it's level as it is. And then tape that to a block. Now, you can play the game. The block will never let it tip in or out. All you're going to need to do is drag slowly. Wait a little bit for heat soak. Drag slowly. Heat soak and cool. Keep playing the game real gently. Real gently. And it's amazing once again what you can do. And you're going to spend a lot less time doing it. And it's sharp enough to do anything you want to do but the wildest and craziest of cuts. It's that good. Okay, for the hardest part of sharpening. Here's the unit I have, and although it's not brand new, I think they still make it. In any event, there's plenty of them out in the market just like it, or amazingly close to. The first thing you're going to do is need to square up your chisel and get it in there perfectly so that it's left to right on the money, and so that front to back it's lifting or laying exactly at the right angle. And to figure that out closely, take a flashlight and put your chisel in the wash of that light. And then look from an angle, straight across the table, as straight as you can spy across the table. And look for light under that blade. Hopefully, depending upon what you're trying to do, you have no light underneath there. If you're trying to do one of these here, a one step all the way across. If you're trying to do the two step, where it's just a little bit off the back like that, well then, adjust it exactly as such, so that you can see that in that light wash, the tip is touching at the angle you've matched for the last time. Once you have that figured out, you're going to take some really, really gentle strokes on the stone. And that's to find out if you are really where you need to be. Really gentle, easy first strokes. And pay attention to your stone, or your chisel. That stone will leave witness marks immediately on the tip of your chisel as to, are you off skew, left or right? Right? Or if you're too far forward or too far back, then you'll see witness marks all the way at the nose or all the way at the heel. Okay? So once you have figured out exactly that you have that chisel squared up just right, you can start your actual sharpening. Now there's an actual unit here that they make for figuring out what angle your chisel's at. And if you're one of the guys who really wants to keep your stuff perfect all the time, measure exactly where your chisel is and then follow that so that you don't constantly change your chisel's angle through time to the point where it works very different from where it used to. Okay? Next, these stones are meant to be used dry. So there's no oil, no water needed. You just use like a Scotch-Brite pad and some kitchen cleanser or some or a Scotch-Brite and soft scrub to clean these off. It works real good. Let it dry and then go to town. Be gentle when you do these though. I like to put both thumbs on the upper edge here and fingers up front and try to apply, if in your head, try to continue the perfect tension with each set of fingers. If you start a little bit pushing heavier, lighter with one set, it will definitely show up in your blade. And I mean real quick too. And seeing as though they're probably your finest chisels, you're going to want to pay attention to that. It's a long, drawn-out process that works very well, but it's one that I don't prefer. There's so much time in it, I'm just blown away. So I prefer the belt sander game and using very careful strokes on the belt sander with a fine belt. And you can get a pretty decent edge on there. Is it as good as one of these? Of course not. Is it really close? Yes, sir, it is. If you do it carefully, and if you have a belt that's fairly worn and fairly fine. Once again, you have to pay attention though because of heating the surface. Everybody wants to hurry up. Progress, faster, faster. Don't do that. That's how you ruin it. You have to take your time, keep your fingers by where the heat is, just away from the danger, but your fingers are monitoring that temperature constantly. And in the very beginning, heat soak isn't always going to tell you that you're pushing way too hard. So start off incredibly gentle, really easy, and you'll be rewarded by a fast, really good job. And you won't heat the steel, it won't go bad. Let me know what you think. Take care.